please smash the like. Let's trigger that YouTube algorithm, and let's share with you what is about to be presented. So there's this interview, obviously Jed McCaleb, Charlie Shrem, and I do feel as though it was more than important. What is it? Here it is.
This thing that we're working on is is kind of above the protocol. It's this consumer wallet for people to actually use Stellar, which I'm pretty excited about. It's essentially, you can kind of think of it like a global Venmo, where it's allows you to do cross-border payments, save money in dollars in places where they have really high inflation, things like that. So it should be really useful for people, and it's got a really awesome UI and doesn't really expose the fact that you're using crypto, which I think is cool. So like, your grandma or whatever should be able to use it. Anyone who can use Venmo should be able to use this thing.
And will it like connect with local companies, like M-Pesa or whatever?
That's the idea. Like it's because it leverages sellers' interoperability. Like any financial institution can kind of get on and they can interoperate with the users of this wallet. And we use, financial institutions kind of all over the world to be the fiat on and off for this thing. So if you're in Argentina and you want to load up Argentine pesos, you go through a partner there that does it, right? So, and this can allow the thing to kind of grow organically and be useful all over the planet.
Grow organically, be used all over the planet. Right at the beginning, he talks about Venmo, okay? So Venmo should be one of your key things in regards to when we get more further into this outline tonight. With that said, I want to jump into this next particular part because you got to keep in mind some of the things that was mentioned, okay? So let's pull this up. This comes from a site called Prior Data, all right? I'll show you some statistics and why it's important. So from the site, you will see cited here on the citation, Venmo net worth, revenue, valuation, and stats. What year? 2024. Why is this all important? We're going to get into it all. When was this last published? January 19, 2024. But what you're going to see here, like we know, Venmo is kind of like the Cash App. You know what I mean? I use both, but what's really interesting is when you see some of the things here in regards to, this highlight, okay? Venmo, like you see on the screen, let's go ahead and full screen that as well. It mentions that they were acquired by PayPal, okay, for $800 million in 2013. It is now estimated to be worth around $38 billion. All right. Now we understand Elon Musk and the whole thing of PayPal, right? But what's really interesting when you get more into the overview of this, Venmo was actually launched in 2009. You have, for instance, software engineers, managers, all sorts of stuff. But the key stats, Venmo's estimated annual revenue for 2023, that's a huge number, is it not? Yeah, that's 2.4 billion. I don't know why they list it as 2,400 million. The estimated annual payment volume for Venmo is 298 billion. That was back, on that 2023 report. Venmo is estimated to have 85.1 million users in 2023. And there's a whole bunch of other stats, right? Listing revenue, all this stuff. This outline isn't just really focusing on Venmo, but I wanted to point out some of these things, okay? And getting more into this, here is something I also want to share. Now, your key takeaway, again, should be what Jed McCaleb shared, okay? He mentioned specifically, and I have the quote, that way I don't have to pull up the video again. Stellar will be used as a global, quote-unquote, Venmo, and it doesn't expose that you're using crypto. You and your grandma should be able to use it. Anyone who has used Venmo should be able to use this thing. Any financial institutions can get on and use fiat on and off this thing. Can grow organically or be used all over the planet. Now, when I see statements like that, it's like, all right, I understand it. I get it. A lot of YouTubers, influencers, researchers, and so on have done the typical thing, and I'm guilty of it too. And that is, Jed McCaleb, vast. That stands out, especially when it comes to Elon Musk. But when I went down the rabbit hole, it opened up so many more things than just, Jed McCaleb, Elon Musk, and vast. Okay? So when you see this, I want to put out a disclaimer right now for the record. For me personally, I've been pretty consistent that I've stated that Stellar is my number two. And if anything, this is going to solidify, at least in my eyes. None of this is financial advice. Just present you guys information, research. Do with it as you choose. That's what you got to do at the end of the day. But my key thing was recognizing these bold statements. You know, there's going to be a lot that could happen for the future with anything. But what about specifically Stellar? And what about specifically Elon Musk, like everybody's been waiting for? Will he choose Stellar, XLM, for example, compared to all these other ones? For me, I think the answer is truly yes. And I could be wrong, but I'm going to stand by why I believe that and present to you guys my research on what I have found other than just the typical, the vast connection and stuff like that because of SpaceX. So again, if this research is your thing, especially when it comes to Stellar, smash the like. Let's get into this. I think it's very, very important. So that quote from Jed McCaleb, right, of Stellar, and by the way, many other companies, you know, it's a bold statement, especially with the interview with Charlie Shrem, Investor Place. But you also got to keep in mind some of these statements, and I'll full screen this. Venmo does not work internationally. Interesting. You know, it says that to open a Venmo account in the first place, you'll need to be like physically located in the United States with a United States dollar bank account, local US phone number, etc., etc., right? And, you know, when you hear that statement again from McCaleb about the whole thing, that Stellar will be a global Venmo, well, understand that that in itself is profound. That is amazing because, you know, when we talk about supply and demand kicking in, well, what ones will take off when you finally get, as some people say, that moment where that demand kicks in, right? And that's where it's at for me. I want to talk about something real quick before we kick it into more of a solid outline, and that is, you know, this whole topic of a global Venmo and Jed McCaleb's statements. You know, for a lot of us in retail, sounds cool, but what is the real true significance behind the whole thing of, you know, a global Venmo and Stellar? Like, where do they move forward when it comes to this? Well, the key difference between Stellar and, of course, Venmo, you know, is their reach and their functionality. Hear me out on this. You'd be glad you did. Bottom line is two main things in regards to functionality. It is global versus US only. Venmo currently restricts its services, of course, to the US, requiring a US bank account, like we pointed out, phone number, and so on. Stellar, on the other hand, aims to be a global platform, accessible to anyone regardless of location. Hence why they have that slogan, banking the unbanked. Crypto versus traditional finance, you know, you got to keep in mind Venmo operates within the traditional finance system, linking with, of course, you, me, and everyone else's bank account here in the United States. Stellar embraces cryptocurrency and aims to act as a bridge between crypto and fiat currencies. You know, which is what? Traditionally, or I should say, traditional government issued money. We get that. But the overall significance of this is that there's a potential for wider adoption. And listen to this. By being global and crypto friendly, Stellar in itself has a potential for wider adoption on a greater scale than Venmo could ever even believe. It could tap into the growing international market for digital payments and cater to users who prefer crypto transactions. Is this a disruptive technology? Well, you better believe it is. You know, it's a disruption of traditional finance. If successful, Stellar in themselves could disrupt the way international payments are currently handled, potentially offering faster, cheaper, and more accessible transactions. Now, like in anything, There's going to be challenges, of course, for Stellar. And, all these things are also worth pointing out. It's not just, hey, here's nothing but positive news. But some of the challenges, in a nutshell, are these two, and that is mainstream adoption, as we know. The people say that Stellar price doesn't move. We're not at mainstream adoption yet. But despite aiming for easy use, cryptocurrencies in themselves are still a relatively new concept for many. Yeah, no kidding. Building trust and user comfort with crypto transactions will be absolutely crucial for Stellar's success. But what about somebody else's success who's already successful? Yeah, the great Elon Musk. Had to make sure I said it right, not the other guy, right? But the other key thing to get into tonight is regulation. And I'm not oblivious to the notion that the United States is still not there when it comes to proper crypto regulations. And a lot of people feel as though when it happens, that's when the utility run will kick in. I get it. I see a lot of complaints from people from the community and so on. Not necessarily you guys, but random people posting, I should have just invested in meme coins and AI because those are the ones that are currently doing well. But you want to know something? You will regret in the future that you didn't take more of a further look into Stellar. And again, let's get more into why that is. So, you know, this whole thing of regulation, the ever evolving regulatory landscape surrounding cryptocurrencies could pose challenges, of course, for Stellar's operation and growth. But I want everybody to understand comparing the highlights of Stellar, Venmo, it's this vision of a global cryptocurrency based platform akin to the user friendly Venmo. Like, you already have people that have bought into that concept of instant cash, right? How do we take it to the next level? Well, the next level and answer would be Stellar. Pulling up some actual research, let's take you to an article which was actually from India, ironically. I want to share this with you, and if this doesn't catch your attention, nothing will. Don't mean that any disrespectfully, but it is worth pointing out. On this printed article from January 16th of this year, it states Elon Musk X to introduce peer-to-peer payment system in mid 2024. Now, we're not quite to mid 2024 yet. In my opinion, mid 2024 would be like roughly around June. But the bottom line is what you see here. Significant development, Elon Musk's social media platform, X, formerly known as Twitter, obtained a money transmitter license from Utah on Monday. Marks Utah as the 15th state in the U.S. to grant approval, positioning the company to delve into offering payment features. Utah's approval, granted at least then, as reported by the nationwide multi-state licensing system and registry, provides X with capabilities akin to PayPal's Venmo. Again, if you miss some of this stuff, you can always go back and watch the beginning. It's crucial that you understand why you need to watch it all. This authorization empowers the platform to facilitate secure money transfers, laying the foundation for users to seamlessly send money to one another within the social media ecosystem. And of course, I'm following this particular gentleman. But, like he says, social media platform X took a step closer by offering payment features after receiving a transmitter license from a 13th and 14th U.S. state, at least back in January. And of course, there's a slew more of these. Jed McCaleb and Elon Musk, like it says, have a partnership that is literally out of this world, says this guy, right? And we understand that the whole thing of vast, obviously, is a big deal. And I would never deny that. But I wanted to get more into this whole thing and why I feel as though, wow, look what I found. Why I want to share it. So, when we get more into this whole thing, shout out to this same guy, Marty Party, right? He goes into some detail about this, okay? He says, update on X payments. X receives Pennsylvania and Utah money transmitter licenses. Elon Musk's social media platform took a closer offering. Already mentioned that. But this statement, here's his quote: in order to offer payment services to users across the U.S., X will need approval in every state, a process that could take up to 18 months and cost several $1 million, said Aaron Klein, a senior fellow focused on financial technology regulations at the Brookings Institution. Goes on to mention, remember to offer stablecoin payment features and potentially some crypto. A money transmitter license suffices. In fact, this is the same license Coinbase has. That's very interesting. He also says that in his opinion, Musk could either delay stablecoin integration within the US Stablecoin Act, passed through the House with a Q1, Q2, and basically debut, X payments within Circle or, for example, PYPL. And we covered that news from last year. Kathy Wood did a space where she did not seem too keen to discussing Lightning. Right, yeah, I don't want to get into that today. But anyway, Bitcoin or Doge integration. Accepting unstable coin would bring unnecessary regulation attention. He thinks he will either, as a Musk, will debut with the US dollar and move to other stablecoin commerce before any other digital asset is supported. And of course, he's following it closely. Now, I'm going to come back into the frame on this for a second. Guys, this is why you've seen so much news lately when it comes to stablecoins. Even BlackRock with Biddle. Ripple, obviously, the big news that happened last week in regards to Ripple going with the stablecoin. We even covered BSV recently with their whole stablecoin news and so on. And, it's like Sony stablecoin, Japan, all this. You ever wonder why the world is positioning themselves for this? Because something big is going to happen. All right. Well, where do we come in? The retail people. Well, that's a discussion for another day, but it's worth pointing out. As I got more into my outline, I came to the conclusion that I can't just come to a conclusion. I need to get more into this. And here's the next particular part. You will see here, cited from Reuters.com/technology/Musk-X-receives-Pennsylvania. This whole thing of, a little bit more about Pennsylvania and Elon Musk and how he receives a money license to push towards payments. Now, of course, that was back in December, but it's worth pointing out. And what you're also going to see here is in regards to money transmitter licenses and how X has the ability to facilitate those money transfers and pave the way for the company to allow users to send one another, similar to PayPal's Venmo. And I want to just elaborate just a little bit more about that. As we know, Elon Musk was part of PayPal many years ago. This whole notion that he's going to jump back into the whole thing of PayPal could be a thing, but I don't think so. If you left a platform for a reason because you had disagreements, you didn't like how it was going, right? Do you really want to jump back into that? Well, some people say, yeah, there's been cases of that, right? You have, for example, Steve Jobs jumping back into Apple. I get that. That's a different story, right? A little bit of apples and oranges. But instead of jumping back into something that you might despise, right, such as PayPal for Elon Musk, would it make more sense to get involved with something like what Jed McCaleb was talking about, a global Venmo? And I'm not going to end it just there. I'm going to get more into this and share a little bit more of my key findings. As we pull this next part up, let's get into this. This is from SZoo. I follow him, he follows me. Thank you for that. He mentions specifically, don't forget that Elon Musk already has a huge partnership with founder and chief architect of Stellar, which is Jed McCaleb. McCaleb, as we know, is the CEO of Vast, as in the company that builds space stations, so on and so forth, right? We know this for the most part. But you want to know something? Elon Musk to have a comprehensive financial hub that would aim to replace traditional bank accounts by the end of 2024. You don't think that's a bold, bold statement? He is doing something. And, if I was looking at it from the broader perspective, which I think a lot of these companies are, was Ripple, Stellar, Sony, and all these other ones, it's like you are going to pay attention to what Elon Musk is going to do, So as I got further into this, here's a little bit more about this from the Wolf of All Streets. Shout out to this guy, right? He goes on to mention this, which I thought was pretty spot on. He goes on to state that Elon Musk steering to become a comprehensive financial hub, how he feels as though is a big deal, but he says during an internal call, Musk expressed ambitions to encompass all, yeah, you saw that, all monetary transactions on X's platform, extending beyond mere payments to cover the broader financial spectrum. The roadmap includes acquiring necessary money transmission licenses. We just talked about some of that. In the US, Musk's vision for X, drawing from his early blueprint for PayPal, sees the platform offering a variety of financial services like high yield accounts and real time global money transfers. Again, being a global Venmo. The journey towards transforming X into a quote unquote super app akin to China's WeChat does pose challenges in gaining user trust and, of course, adoption. Well, we know that, right, for the most part. I want to talk about that for a brief moment and why that's important. You know, because at the end of the day, when we talk about China's WeChat and some of these other things, it's like, okay, China probably doesn't have the biggest amount of trust. But at the end of the day, why is this all significant? And if anything, doesn't Stellar already have, for example, like, and I didn't get this particular part, talks more about the super app and, high yield accounts, but doesn't Stellar already have high yield accounts and real time global money transfers already? I mean, some of you guys might be asking that. Well, I feel as though that this is significant for three main reasons to point out in regards to that last particular, piece of coverage. And that is, it's a disruption to financial markets. Don't get it twisted. Elon Musk's vision for X could very well disrupt the traditional banking sector by offering a one-stop shop for financial needs. Hence why he's mentioned creating, the everything app. Okay? What about convenience? You can have the greatest, so-called app in the world, but if it's not convenient even for the thing like payments, is people really going to use it? Having payments, savings, and potentially other financial services like investments under one platform could be more convenient, of course, for users. Can you imagine just going to X and just getting all done, everything, payments, you name it, your social media? I mean, even as we speak right now, doing this show, we have, it's about 50-50, on X and YouTube, but normally speaking, lately, for the last month, I've been doing a show with you guys. It's like dominated by X, and I think that's worth pointing out. You have to also keep in mind, it's not just convenience, it's competition, right? There's always competition. We know that. This move by X could force traditional banks to adapt and innovate to compete. That is something that you need to consider. Are they ready innovating to compete because they want to win the X platform? Could very well be the case. Say what you want. When we talk about onboarding nations, the X platform in itself could very well someday have a higher GDP even than some countries based on how much it brings into the platform. Don't think it could ever happen? Look at a video game, for instance. Remember World of Warcraft? Remember when at the height of World of Warcraft, how literally they're bringing in more virtual revenue than some third world countries. It's a thing. But this is real money we're talking about. What about the challenges of all this? Well, user trust. As we know, gaining trust for financial services requires a strong, sense of security record and even clear regulations. That's probably the next step forward. We know this. But in regards to regulation, obtaining a money transfer, or I should say money transmission licenses in multiple states, well, it's a complex process. We know that. Some states are a lot more strict compared to others. But in regards to Stellar and why you're connected here tonight, for the most part, you got to keep in mind, Stellar, to answer the question, doesn't offer high yield accounts or real-time money transfers. But as we know, it's a blockchain network that facilitates transactions between different, of course, cryptocurrencies. You got to also keep in mind that there is companies built on Stellar that could offer, of course, those specific services. We cover, for example, Stronghold. It's a remittance platform. If X integrates with Stellar, it might be able to leverage existing services, of course, built on the network for features like what? Fast money transfers. I mean, if we talk about ecosystems, it gets blanketed, and at least it should, because that makes sense. Now, we understand that overall, Elon Musk has a vision, of course, for X, and we have our idea of how it's going to be, but it might not be in line, of course, with his particular vision. And when I get more into this outline, I'll give those reasons why. But it's an ambitious attempt to revolutionize financial services. Yeah, I would agree. While Stellar doesn't directly offer all these features itself, you got to keep in mind they could very well play a role into X's future. So the next part I want to get into is this. And this is straight from VAST, and I get it, but it's not your typical thing. I'm going to point out some key players from VAST to tie in the whole outline and why I feel as though it's a really, really big deal. So you're going to see here the team over at VAST. So much more than just Jed McCaleb, right? Absolutely. So pay attention to the guy on the far top right, Max Hout, if I'm pronouncing that right. With Mr. Hout, it says he is an aerospace consumer, he is in aerospace. He's, consumer electronics, internet entrepreneur, but he founded and even scaled, and look at that statement, scaled and successfully sold 4 companies, including Launcher, acquired by Vast, Mevo, acquired by Logitech, and Livestream, acquired by IAC Vimeo. Interesting. There's other people here, right, that are also worth looking into, like this guy over here, Alex Hudson, right? R&D engineering. And you see some of these other people here. As I got more into it, especially about Max Hout, I came to look into this concept of what we were talking about in regards to these people that are part of like this team, We understand that when it comes to Jed McCaleb and Vast, there's also a thing called Interstellar, right? So jumping into Interstellar, I want to share this with you. If you go to interstellar.com/about, there's this gentleman named Mike Kennedy. Let's full screen this for you. Mike Kennedy, why pay attention to him? Well, he is the CEO of Interstellar, a technology company revolutionizing financial services. And I always find it funny, especially like when we come up with the names. I mean, Jed McCaleb founded Stellar, then there's a company course called Interstellar. But revolutionizing financial services, he has a focus on delivering faster, cheaper, and more reliable cross-border payments. What is he also? What's the aha moment, Max? Well, he was the former founder and CEO of Zelle. Right, of Zelle. Why is that so important? Well, I'll share something with you guys. So when I was, purchasing half of my miner with Will Fix, Will, just like anybody else, doesn't want to get hit with a bunch of fees. And he asked me, he says, hey, Max, while we have a CASPA miner together and so on, and you're going to buy out your half, because you already upfront the money for it. He's like, can you do me a favor when you send me the money? Can you send it on Zelle? Do you have a Zelle account? And I said, yeah, Will. I have it as part of my Wells Fargo account. So, of course, I send the money to Will. No fees, because both of us have Zelle. And it was quick, and it was instant. There was no problem. But again, understanding this, Zelle, back to this for a second. Let's blow this up. So, this whole thing of this gentleman of Interstellar, Mike Kennedy, being the founder and CEO of Zelle, the largest person-to-person payments network in the United States. Again, guys, I'm telling you, there's something here. There really is. And it's not just this. But he's also on the board of American Savings Bank, formerly a president of OFX North America, head of payments at Wells Fargo, right? And worked at McKinsey & Company. How many times have you seen me do citations with research statistics from McKinsey? They do a great job with their consulting services, but also when it comes to data analytics. Mike Kennedy graduated with distinction from Stanford for his undergraduate engineering degree from also Harvard. He has his MBA. Jed McCaleb, all right? Obviously referenced here. History of all this, right? Interesting to see some of these connections. Getting to the next part of what we have, I want to share this. This is somewhat recent. This is from Forbes. Elon Musk says Tesla will reveal its robo-taxi on August 8th, right? August 8th of what? 2024. When was this printed? This was on April 5th. It might be kind of hard for you to see it. But he did mention on April 5th that on a post on X, he will unveil its highly anticipated robo-taxi later this summer, delivering an after-hours boost to the company's, beleaguered stock. And, goes into all these details. Again, understand this. Even on things like that, people need to get paid. It needs to be quick. Worth pointing out. Jumping into the next part. Listen to this for a second. I want to get into this. Hold on, let me go back for a second. Yes, this is good stuff as well. You will see this is called LightNet, okay? And I think where I was going with that. Hold on a second. Sometimes I get all these notes and I get ahead of myself. It's kind of it's a weird thing, but it's all right. Yeah, let's pull this up. This is LightNet. I want to point this out because this was something that was also cited. It goes on to mention that, connect the Asian clusters or clutters, excuse me. Let me go ahead and full screen this. Sorry. So we can see it a little bit better. It says settle with ease, future-proof, 100% regulatory compliance, interoperable payment solution provider for faster, cheaper, easier international transfer. It goes on to mention connecting with the world's LightNet's products. They cover all these things all around the world, different countries. But look what it says. Territories, 120 plus, 70 plus account credit countries, 47,000 cash payout locations, 50 plus currencies. And what's interesting is when you see some of the investors here, okay? You see, for example, hopefully they didn't update the site too much. One of the investors I was going to show you was one that was obviously connected to all this. Oh, my bad on that. I think they did update the site. So that kind of messed up part of my outline. But it's all right. We can move on. I'll get to this next part. I promise you. Let's jump into it. And that is, yes, this from CNBC. Elon Musk launches his new company, XAI. We know about XAI. We know about the whole thing when it comes to Grok. But look, this is back on July of last year. Says that he specifically wants to debut a new AI company called XAI with the goal to understand the true nature of the universe. It goes on to mention some of these things. Goes on to mention about, AI. There's going to be another big announcement in May. I'll give you guys more of that information when I'm done with that. I'm trying to get a solid outline. But the point is, all this stuff about AI, all this stuff about, being part of the alumni of DeepMind, OpenAI, Google Research, Microsoft Team. I mean, all this stuff in regards to Musk positioning himself with these companies, right? The big industry leaders, right? And the bottom line is, when we look more into it, it's like something about AI and something about, like understanding the bigger picture of things. Do we have something in regards to like even Stellar and AI? Well, it's interesting to say the least when you look more into it. I decided to research more of Elon Musk investments, okay? And some of you guys obviously know some of the bigger ones that are on the surface. But I wanted to jump right into some of these key things, okay? So, this is not JASMY coverage tonight, but even with the whole thing with JASMY, Panasonic, Nevada, and then to see this, Musk incorporated XAI in Nevada in March. I mean, say what you want. That's kind of interesting. But it's these financial filings. XAI's website, the company notes separation from X Corp adding it will work closely with X, Tesla, and other companies to make progress towards a mission. What exactly is that mission? Is it just to have this, global Venmo? I really think it is. But there's so much more to it than just that. Check this out for a second. Come back into the frame in a moment. It mentions specifically, if you go to the site, and I know some of you guys want the source, so go to signal.nfx.com. Really just do a search, type in Elon Musk. This is what will come out from that. Let's go ahead and full screen this. You will see here that, Elon Musk's profile, we know some of the main things, right? But when I got more into this, one thing that really, really caught my eye was Biosora. Do you know what Biosora is? Well, we're going to get into that here in just a bit. But the key thing is recognizing not just them, but a Stripe, all right? And so my thing is this, all right? Let's talk about this for a second. There's too much when it comes to these connections. For you guys that don't know about Stripe, what's the difference between Stripe and, of course, Zelle? Because we just talked about Zelle. Well, basically speaking, the difference is Stripe and Zelle, of course, are both involved in online transactions, but they serve different purposes. Pay attention to this particular part, just in case you're having too much fun with some of your buddies in the chat talking about pogo sticks and Caroline. Stripe is a payment processing platform for businesses. It allows businesses to accept various payment methods for customers, including credit cards, debit cards, ACH transfers, which is automated clearinghouse. And this is back to the whole thing, and I should have tagged Stronghold on this one as well. But this is where I feel as though they come under that umbrella of what we're talking about earlier in the outline. But yes, ACH transfers and even digital wallets like Apple Pay. Stripe offers features like invoicing, subscription management, and fraud prevention. Now you got to keep in mind, when we talk about subscription management, we have already been exposed to a subscription, obviously, from X, especially like myself and some of you other guys who have the blue check mark. Some of you guys are subscribed to Grok. But how do we take it to the next level, right? Especially when it comes to something like payments. Well, you got to have something that's kind of similar to Stripe. Going more into this, Stripe is an ideal platform for a business owner who's looking for a comprehensive solution to take payments online. So it even opens that particular sector. Zelle, on the other hand, like I gave an example about, peer-to-peer payment service. Again, what has Stellar always been labeled as when it comes to comparing them to the likes of XRP? People talk about XRP being the bank to bank, and that Stellar XLM would be the what? The peer-to-peer form of payment. Interesting. Especially the whole thing with Zelle. And that example we gave about, who was it? Michael Kennedy? Or was that somebody else? I don't know. We'll have to double check it. There's so many names, right? But the key thing is understanding the whole thing of being able to send and receive money directly between bank accounts in the US. Again, back to the beginning of the outline. And that is, of course, Mr. Jed McCaleb talking about Stellar becoming a global Venmo. And as we know, Venmo is just the US. So Zelle is, in fact, a convenient way to split bills with friends, pay rent to your landlord, send money to family members, but is not suitable for business transactions, okay? Now, there's some key differences. First thing I'll get into is in regards to purpose. Stripe, business payment processing. Zelle, person-to-person money transfer. Okay, what's another main feature? Stripe, business accounts. Zelle, personal bank accounts, of course, in the US. What's another main feature? Stripe, invoicing, subscriptions, fraud prevention. Zelle, well, none of those particular features. What about a feature of international availability? Well, Stripe, yes, in many countries, but Zelle, US only. Again, back to the Stellar example of being a global Venmo. All right. Ultimately, the choice between Stripe and Zelle, as we know, depends, of course, on my needs, your needs, maybe you're a business owner, and so on. But if you are a business owner, Stripe is the way to go. So they claim. And of course, at the end of the day, if we need to send money, whether it's to me, for me to Will Fix, Zelle seems to be the convenient option. How do you have something like X's platform, the Everything app, to do all of it? That's the point. And you can see how Elon Musk is strategically doing this behind the scenes. Some of it gets reported, some of it doesn't. Show you another example. Okay. So let's jump back real quick to the research and share this with you. You will see here, back to Elon Musk's investments on record. Is this full screen? Yes, it is. So you will see that there's these stage rounds, the dates, and so on, but back to Biosora. Why is Max mentioning Biosora? Well, back then, he was involved with the pre-seed funding. January 2022, he put up about 340,000. Now that may seem kind of insignificant considering how wealthy he is. Again, understand the bigger picture. And with that said, this is where we're going to get more into this. You may be wondering, this is off the wall. Trust me, it's not off the wall. And if anything, it's only 1 minute and 51 seconds. Is there something in common in regards to Biosora and especially Stellar and Elon Musk and Elon Musk's investments? Is this a perfect case of buy the rumor, sell the news, or is this a perfect case of birds of the feather flock together? Or if anything, they have a common goal. What is that common goal? Smash that like, listen to this. You'd be glad that you did. Biosora captures carbon and fertilizes soil. Listen to this. It will all make sense in just a moment. Here we go. Okay, let me turn on some of the stuff back on. Bear with me. All right. Where is that thing? There we go. Okay, so that was just a quick little clip. All right, let's take it to the next particular part of why this is all important. Okay, this is straight from Stellar. Now, some of you guys are the hardcore Stellar fanatics. You already know where I'm going with this. Look at this. We just talked about Biosora, carbon, footprints, and all this stuff, offsetting that. Boom. Offsetting your carbon footprint with blockchain technology. Again, birds of the feather do flock together. I think there's so much more to it than what you typically seen out there. Nothing against other people that cover the whole thing with Vast. I did too, right? But I decided to take it more to the next step, the next level. Because when you connect all this stuff, wow. It's just like, yeah, you know what? I never really thought about that. Maybe some of you guys have already, and boom, kudos to you guys. But showing you the video from Biosora, tomato, however you pronounce it, and then seeing, even before that, what Elon Musk is passionately wanting to invest in. And then going to Stellar and literally seeing this, well, let's full screen it. Offsetting your carbon footprint with blockchain tech. This is straight from Stellar. They published this when? July 6, 2022. When did Elon Musk invest in Biosora? 2022. Well, that's just coincidence, Max. Well, call it whatever you want. It's worth pointing out, is it not? Task.io, sustainability, blockchain innovation. Of course, like it says from Stellar, continues to forge ahead with use cases to expand the support of social missions and environmental sustainability. One such project is Task.io, a mobile-first technology built on Stellar blockchain that focuses on helping social organizations gather data. Wow. I know I didn't even do, for example, JASMY coverage, but, there's that. Provide incentives, report on impact. Among many of the partners, Task works with Impact Venture Biochar Life to educate and engage smallholder farmers in developing countries in how to produce and use biochar. Again, guys, biochar and farmers, and to educate those people and to, recognize the metrics of carbon, and the whole process of that. Look at this for a second. There's this token, and if anything, maybe we should look more into it at some point. Stop the Smoke, which is STS, is minted on Stellar. So to those looking to offset their carbon footprint. Then a portion of those funds goes back to the farmers to incentivize the creation of additional biochar. Again, additional biochar. And you have what on the previous example? You have the example of biosura. So there's common ground here. There's too much to say. There's too many things when it comes to Jed McCaleb, Stellar, and of course Elon Musk and X. Can we at least agree on that for now? My opinion, I think a lot of us can. There might be some naysayers. Hey, so what comes with the territory? Getting in a little bit more into Biosora, check this out. Let's go ahead and full screen this. It says that they are looking to transform crop waste into crop yield by producing a biochar, soil improver that increases farm crops by up to 200%. Isn't this common ground with literally what was mentioned from the Stellar site? Yeah, it sure as the heck is. And look at this for a second. It shows some of these solution pitches to where? Nairobi, Kenya. For profit, including corporations, similar models. They even have work in Ghana. Interesting. Solution website, Biosora. Interesting. And then you have the whole thing of what? You have Biosora, again, we just referenced them from Elon Musk, exists to support farmers and the climate. The solution breaks the cycle of land degradation by providing organic fertilizer and what does it say right there? Biochar. Biochar. And it says it again. Soil improver. So there is something big in regards to this. So this whole notion that, Elon Musk and Vast, I should say, with Jed McCaleb, that's just one thing. It's just one thing. We know about that. Cool story, bro. That's all we got. Cool story. No, it's so much more than a cool story because you need to hear the story from somebody like myself or other researchers and so on. When you get more into Stellar, it will absolutely blow your mind because we understand that it's not just one little thing that we confirmed last year with Vast. We have to get more into it. We need to dig deeper into it and understand, wow, we just hit what? So many different things about common ground. The concept of Venmo, the concept of, can improve Zelle or Stripe? Can we make it a global platform? What is Stellar doing in regards to offsetting a carbon footprint? What do they got going on in Africa? Do you understand the bigger picture so far? And guess what? We're not even done yet. Look at this for a second. Let's take it to the next part. Because this is more from biochar. Here's your boil it, mash it, stick it, and stew. This was January 18, 2022. Biochar Trust reducing CO2 emissions with Task and Stellar. Now this one is about under 5 minutes. I will play this because it's going to let you know about how Biochar Trust pulls in what? Remote data. I'm the X platform. I'm all about remote data, like a fat kid on cake. Check this out, watch it, enjoy it, share with others, educate people about Stellar. Don't give them the fluff, give them the deep dive content for a reason. Know what you hold, know why you freaking hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. Here we go.
One of the biggest challenges we are seeing today is how to reduce the amount of CO2 that is pumped into the atmosphere every year. A big contributor to this comes from farming communities in the developing world who burn crop waste to speed up the farming process. Fixing this problem requires the right tools, training, and incentives. At Task, we're working with Biochar Trust, a social enterprise that is helping remove thousands of tons of CO2 from the atmosphere by teaching smallholder farmers to create biochar instead of burning their crop waste. Using Task and Stellar, the whole process is tracked on blockchain and tokens are generated to represent CO2 sequestered. Organizations can invest in the program and offset their carbon footprint, a process that generates much needed income for smallholder farmers, whilst also helping to reduce CO2 emissions. Biochar Trust uses a common asset issued on the Stellar blockchain called Stop the Smoke, or STS for short. New tokens are created, or minted as it's known, when carbon is sequestered. One STS token equals 1 ton of CO2 removed from the air. By doing this, Biochar Trust has a transparent ledger of everything they do, and it's these tokens that can be purchased by companies looking to offset their carbon. When the STS tokens are purchased, liquidity is generated for Biochar Trust, which can be shared with these farming communities. So how does Biochar Trust pull in the remote data in order to prove all of this? Well, I'm now on the Task app and inside the Biochar Trust program. I'm demonstrating the role of a farmer or volunteer worker who will add the information required to verify the process. The most important activity is tracking the use of biochar, as it gives us the information needed to calculate CO2 sequestered. You can see here how the farmers provide the data that Biochar Trust needs to calculate that CO2 sequestered. All these activities are displayed publicly for funders to view. And if we click through one of these activities, we can dig into the data and media, including geolocations, that grow confidence and trust with investors. As the biochar is used as animal feed or fertilizer, a formula calculates the CO2 sequestered and then mints the new amount of STS tokens against this positive environmental impact. It's all tracked within Stellar blockchain. You can see a unique task URL that has been added to the memo field of this transaction. And if we load it up, you can see it takes us to the data that was used to justify the minting of the new STS tokens. Okay, so we've now looked at how the data is captured and the tokens are minted. Let's also understand the buyer journey. In this case, an organization or individual offsetting their carbon footprint through the purchase of STS tokens. The wallet in Task gives us everything we need to trade and exchange Stellar assets, including STS. I can buy lumens to fund my account using on-ramp partners. I can then use the exchange feature to swap assets. In the example here, I'm exchanging $10 for the equivalent in STS tokens. We can view the Stellar Explorer to see the details of our purchase and the payment path. As an investor, I'm highly confident I'm only buying verified sequestered carbon assets and can display.
Okay, nice to be able to share something like that, obviously, right? What we're going to do now is we're going to kick it into the next part of being near the X, a constellation. Astera seeks to build a critical threshold of force multipliers who can broadly connect, enable, and coordinate others. Huh. What is that exactly? Have you guys even heard of Astera? And if not, what is the main thing I'm pointing out here? Well, I'll show you. I'm going to full screen this. Let's take you to it. Let's take off that thing for Stellar for a moment. And as you go further down, you will see, in regards to a familiar face. Institute leadership. Yeah. Once again, Jed McCaleb. Why point him out? He's the founder of Astera Institute. His focus is on accelerating progress, expanding potential, and increasing net happiness. Also founder, as we know, and architect of Stellar. Yeah. But it's the people that's also part of this. Look at this for a second. There's Sime Shao, if I'm pronouncing that right. She's a scientist. She's part of this whole thing of, you know, I guess you could say molecular cell biology. And there's these other people here. It says, with a background in youth development, Haley Wynn specializes in the development of youth, the education. So again, when you saw that example biochar, when they're talking about education and stuff like that, I mean, there's quite a impressive team here. And again, they have this thing called the AGI program. Now, when I got into that, it takes you to here. Hopefully you guys see this screen. I don't know. Sometimes when I click on other screens, you guys don't see it. But it says they're charting a path towards thinking machines. Okay? And again, my thing is it's AI. All right? And, you know, when I give you guys the solid AI deep dive, which, you know, I'm always debating on what particular time to do it. I rather release the info when the market's down, because I understand people will FOMO into some of the stuff. I see people literally DMing me about it. It's their financial advice, but you guys do DM me about some of this stuff. So this whole thing of charting a path towards thinking machines, okay? Again, understand Elon Musk's position when it comes to AI, and especially where it says artificial general intelligence, which is AGI, will be the most transformative technology in human history, one that can improve all other areas of investigation and endeavor. Remember on that CNBC outline, they talked about XAI and everything Elon Musk is trying to do. And we gave you some other examples, especially, you know, trying to connect the whole thing with Stellar. But it says here, they believe AGI can bring good humanity and that many approaches are needed to ensure success and alignment with society's values. Creating AGI doesn't destroy the things humans care about, but will require diverse solutions. With that in mind, they promote alternative AI research and support AI work that falls outside the mainstream. Goes on to mention how Astera seeks to complement existing research by supporting alternate pathways to new models. By providing significant resources, Astera provides a home to diverse AI research that would otherwise lack access to this awesome technology. Again, you got to understand, even from an AI perspective, Grok and all these things that Elon Musk is going to do, and his big announcement that's coming out literally next month, you have to understand, is there even that much more of a Stellar plug, and who's it through? Well, it's, again, understanding everything that Jed McCaleb brings to the table from an Elon Musk perspective. Look at this for a second. Obelisk, which is part of AGI's laboratory, is a team of researchers who are pursuing an exploratory neuroscience-informed approach to engineering AGI. Wow. So, again, here's another example of things you weren't aware of when it comes to Stellar, Jed McCaleb in particular, and the bigger picture of things. So we know when it comes to Neuralink, right? That's a big thing that Elon Musk has invested into. Can you even say that, you know, Stellar has some kind of plug or connector, no pun intended, to even AI and something like, you know, with, you know, like the Neuralink and so on? Could this very well be it? I think it could be. There's too much there. There's too many coincidences, you know? I mean, literally, I gave you guys 5 or 6 different examples of all this. Are we not paying attention to some of this stuff? Check this out. Getting more into it, Astera enables the Obelisk team to do what? To focus on basic research and take a long-term view. Just like us in Stellar, guys. Are you complaining about the price every day? Are you one of those type of people that you don't understand the long-term view? Obelisk is constrained by the need to secure funding. Ha! Who is all over funding? Like those examples we gave earlier about half an hour ago. Yeah, Elon Musk. Garner profit, publish results. But it's the whole thing of that they have access to significant computational resources. And they go on to mention like some of the problems. You know, what does it say? The research and experiments are focused on the following problems, I should say. How does an agent continuously adapt to a changing environment, incorporate new information? See what you want, but even if you have an everything app, you need to be able to adapt to a changing environment, incorporate new information, and especially when it comes to other countries, Japan in particular, right? Respecting like privacy laws, like we talked about, data privacy. As we get more into this, it says in a complicated, I can't even pronounce it, stochastic, I guess, environment with sparse rewards, how does an agent associate rewards with the correct set of actions that led to those rewards? Something, say what you want. Elon Musk doesn't want to just recreate everything from scratch. He is looking to all-in-one solutions. All right, look at this. It says our approach is heavily inspired by cognitive science and neuroscience. To measure our progress, we implement and reinforce learning tasks where humans currently do much better than state-of-the-art AI. Yeah, we're not giving up on humans, right? And so there's a lot of that's to be published here. But again, who's part of the leadership? All roads lead still to Jed McCaleb? Are you kidding me? And what does it also mention? Once again, he is the founder of Asteria Institute. His focus is accelerating progress, expanding potential, increasing net happiness. Even with JASMY, it's interesting to see some of the terminology. Data harmonization, Stellar, net happiness. Obviously has the citation of Stellar. They didn't have to mention this here. They didn't have to mention it at all. Look at this other guy who's part of the team. Gary Miguel, VP of Engineering, leads engineering for Obelisk, previously at Microsoft. My God. Led teams working on Open Neural Network Exchange ecosystem. Prior to that, worked with Google, where he led teams working on engineering productivity for the Fuchsia operating system and Google search infrastructure. Enter into the last part of the coverage of the night. Let's give you your last bit, because yeah, a lot of these findings did take me a while to get more into it. It's a lot more than just 5 minutes. So I'm going to take it to here. And some of you guys know about some of this stuff, and some of you don't, and it's okay. So let's talk about Fuchsia, or Fuchsia, or Fuqua, or whatever it's called, right? So Fuchsia, if you go to fuchsia.dev, it talks about it. It says Fuchsia is a modern open source operating system that's simple, secure, updatable, and performant. General purpose of that operating system, Fuchsia, is designed to power a diverse ecosystem of hardware and even software. It's inclusive. It's open source. How many times do you see Elon Musk talk about, some of the things that they produce, right, with his many different companies, and how they're open source, and they welcome open source. So this is even open source effort that welcomes high quality, well-tested contributions from who? From all. And as you get more into this, what is Fuchsia? It's an operating system, and where their goals, at least back in 2021, is to replace Android and Chrome OS, as I've been told, part of me having a peasant phone because I don't have an iPhone. We took a look at Google's secret new platform. Well, at least a secret then, not necessarily now. But it has been on the radar since its inception. 5 years later, Google has started shipping its homegrown OS to the new first generation. And basically speaking, under the hood, this is what caught my eye. Fuchsia OS runs on the Zircon kernel, which is also open source for the uninitiated kernel at the core of every operating system. The kernel is what provides the interface for the computer hardware and software to interact, while the OS provides you with an interface to interact with, among other things. The kernel is what does the heavy lifting. Okay, well, that's interesting. But what's more interesting is to see here that you have these examples. I'll take you to the next tab. This is actually from PC World. It says, if you're wondering what Fuchsia operating system is, you're not alone, possibly not even within the halls of Google itself, but on paper, Fuchsia could be almost anything. It's an open source operating system, a la Chrome or Android, but built on custom kernel. I don't want you to forget this statement, guys. Custom kernel. Am I pulling out a nothing burger? Would Max come up with something that just doesn't make any sense? You know, fluff or fill. You know, some people say, "Oh, I just put in filler time." This is no filler time. Okay, it states here, custom kernel, not like existing code base for Linux or Unix, but it's a nebulous state. It could be applied to smartphones, tablets, laptops, or all three. This operating system in itself could be more capable of running modern apps. Look at this, and browsers, and has speculation that it could be combined to next generation operating system meant to unify Google's consumer focused offerings. Okay, but it does state that Fuchsia is, if it's the future of Google's software, doesn't seem like the company is any rush to get there. And of course, Google has released versions of Fuchsia and how it can run its own Pixel branded Chromebooks, so on and so forth. But if it's not in any rush to get there, who could be the one to decide it's time for Fuchsia? And that's the bottom line you should have for yourself. Let's take it to the next particular point of the discussion, because I want to talk about this for a second. So you got to keep in mind, there's projects that have been worked on, and you know, there's also ones that haven't been finished. Okay. The bottom line for me is understanding some of these things and basically, like, where do we take it from here? Okay. So I want to point this out, you know, and that is, would Elon Musk be interested in something like this? Is there any examples of this? I want you guys to think about this. Is there any examples specifically when it comes to Elon Musk and where he's actually realistically entered into anything like this in the past? The answer is yes. What's the citation? The citation is Britannica.com/money/zip2. Some of you guys know the history about Elon Musk and Zip. Hey, kudos to you. For the rest of us, let's take a look into this. Why is it important? Take a look. Here we go. So Zip2 is an American company, or at least it was, right? This was updated March 30th, 2024, which is cool. But it says Zip, former American technology company that ran from 1995 to 1999. That was the first enterprise founded by Elon Musk. It provided searchable business directory that could be described as an internet version of the Yellow Pages telephone directory with maps included. Okay. Listen to this. Back then, you know, or actually, I guess it still exists now, my bad. They have a market cap of 28.75 billion. Their annual revenue is 53 billion. Crazy stuff, right? The sector's technology, industry, computers. But it says that Elon Musk conceived the idea of making it possible, listen to this, guys, for computer users to find local businesses at a time when computers were not yet ubiquitous. He brought on his brother, Kimball Musk, and a friend, Gregory Coury, as partners. In 1995, after acquiring a disk containing a business directory, Musk persuaded Navtech, a provider of electronic navigable maps, to give him free mapping software. He then wrote the code necessary to put the two databases, businesses, listing, and map together. Musk described the company's mission by saying that everyone ought to be able to find the closest pizza parlor and to be able to figure out how to get there. Unable to persuade potential investors to give them financing, Musk and his partners lived in their office to keep, and he's done that how many times? Did that Tesla? He's actually done it at Twitter, now called X. So it's like he has a history doing that anyway. But he did it to keep the expenses low. The company expanded its listing by convincing businesses to pay for inclusion. And after about a year in 1996, Marr David Dow Ventures agreed to invest some $3 million in Zip2 in exchange for majority ownership. In addition, Musk was replaced as CEO by a more experienced businessman who is Richard Sorkin, but remained executive vice president and chief technology officer. Trust me, it's going to get good here. Under Sorkin, Zip2 began offering its platform to newspapers, allowing them to create local directories for their online subscribers. The New York Times said it was, early customer, and many other major newspapers and newspaper chains followed. By the time Zip2 also included an arts and entertainment guide and specific directories for different categories of businesses. However, Musk disagreed with Sorkin's business policies when Sorkin arranged in 1998 for Zip2 to merge with City Search. I remember City Search. I used to use it to find like where I can go, cool events to go to when I was, a senior in high school. But it provided a similar service. Musk organized a revolt, prevailed upon the board of directors to remove Sorkin as CEO, and Sorkin was replaced by Derek Prudian. In 1999, with Compaq Computer Corp, purchased Zip2, I should say, for $307 million, and Zip2 became a unit of the search engine Alta Vista. I remember using that too, which Compaq had recently acquired. Zip2's online city guides and local breadth to Alta Vista's features. And then, of course, it gives us history about, all this stuff, right? But the bottom line is understanding, like I said, the bigger picture of this. Because when we mention some of this, it's like, is it really a case of seeing Elon Musk, literally like use some of this? And if anything, creating like a new operating system to a sense. And if anything, we talk about this all-in-one app. Is it going to just be what you see connected to X, or are we going to take it to the next level? That's the bottom line I'm trying to get into in regards to this. Now, back to the research or what you just heard in regards to, what we presented earlier with Fuchsia. Now, with Fuchsia, back to this. Fuchsia OS runs on the Zircon kernel, which is also open source. For the uninitiated, a kernel is at the core of every operating system. The kernel is what provides the interface for the computer hardware and software to interact. Now, look at this. Boom. Here's one of your boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew moments. This guy, shout out to him, McKillop. He says lots of systems is built in Rust already. I mean, we're trying to get, like, for example, Caspa, to scale up with smart contracts, and the implementation of Rust. Casper, guys, it already has Rust implemented. Stellar. Yeah, that's right, guys, because we're talking about Stellar, not all these other ones tonight. They already have it. And especially pointing out that for Sorbonne, right? We talked about this before. With Sorbonne, you have Rust already there. So again, understanding the bigger picture shows that, like it says here, that it's just not the kernel. They evaluated Rust years ago when what? Zircon started, but decided it was too soon. Huh. Very interesting. And this is from who? This is, like it says, Flutter Dev, Fuchsia, all the way back in 2021. Something going on here. Something definitely going on here. And here's the icing on the cake. Thank you for everybody who stuck around for it. Encode, Time Stellar, an educational, series. Introduction to Rust and Sorbonne, February 9th, 2024. Gives all the citation for Rust. Talks about replacing for, as a traditional model for code. But I've gone ahead and fast forwarded to the 28-minute and 53-second mark because it's going to get into some of the things about data types and so on. You got to listen to this. Yeah, we just tied in a lot of things, did we not? Is this the nail on the head? Decide for yourself. It's not hype. It's just research. Do with it what you want. Here we go.
About data types now. So let's create a second function here, which is going to be like or chapter markers almost. Okay, we can minimize first. We'll be able to get back to it if we need to. Okay, so let's log second. Always a good sanity check. Now you'll see a second button pop up in the contract widget, which allows us to call the second function. Pretty neat.
What he's sharing with you, basically speaking, hopefully you see this part. Yeah, you do. Notice the very bottom. It talks about data types, and the point is Rust, and he goes into all of these different ones. And what you will see is, for example, everything that obviously makes sense with Rust, and it further solidifies everything that we brought in regards to the outline. That's one of the main key things you should pay attention to, because understanding that if there is even a hint about, like, well, you know, these things that we talked about in regards to AI, and can we get things coded, and if it's something that's going to be familiar or easy to use, even with that example from, what was it again? This right here, right? About how lots of systems is built in Rust already, not just the kernel, and how they evaluated Rust many years ago when Zircon started, but decided it was too soon. Well, is it too soon now? And is Elon Musk literally going to take this to the next level? For me, I think the writing is on the wall. There is too much to basically be mentioned. And obviously we can go more into this, and I don't want to go into it anymore. I spent too much time on Saturday getting into all of it. But my goodness, when people tell me, Max, you should just pick either XRP or Stellar. Well, why do I have to pick one? When we talk about the whole thing of, like, the regret, or, people are talking about the fear of missing out, it's going to be too late. Don't let anybody FUD you out of Stellar. That's the bottom line. I understand there's many other different tokens and so on that are part of the ecosystem, but Stellar XLM, yeah, the price hasn't done anything really significant yet. The way I look at it, it's a blessing in disguise. Have you reached your Stellar goals? So I don't know if you guys consider this bombshell stuff, but I thought it was just way too much to dismiss. And I didn't want to just bring you guys the typical thing of just, hey, it's just vast. Your key takeaway is Jed McCaleb is literally the plug and connector for Stellar to take this thing to the next level. Because, again, all these examples, I mean, come on, I can't even count how many examples, right? At least 6, maybe 7 different examples where, yes, the answer for me, in my humble opinion, and maybe people still don't agree, and that's okay, I think it's just a matter of time before you get an announcement in regards to Elon Musk, the X platform, going with Stellar in some form or capacity. Whether it's direct or indirectly, something on the back end, there's going to be something there. There's too much to say that, that it wouldn't be there. Okay? And if at the end of the day, hey, guess what? We can agree to disagree. More people need to do it instead of saying, I'm right, you're wrong, and all that stuff, right? It's silly. Some of you guys ask what cold storage solution I use. I use this, and it is the Decent wallet. All right. I also, of course, have a ledger like this. All right. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, this is just a shield. And, we'll fix point this out. And it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your significant other, you can get 2 of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this, and I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Decent wallet is not having to do the red tape of, jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to Ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And, saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out, though, if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use for the most part. There's still some on Ledger that, I kind of split it up on it and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one to use.